News 46. Local coverage you can count on.
Welcome to Semper Fi. I'm your host, Mark Bonstein, or as I was commonly referred to as Staff Sergeant B. We're going to get to my guest in a second. First, we're going to cover what happened in Dayton, U.S. military history. In 1789 in the Army, the U.S. War Department established a regular U.S. Army with a strength of several hundred men. And just in general, in 1899, the VFW was established. Gives you some idea how long they've been around. And in the Coast Guard in 1986, U.S. Coast Guard officials signed the contract paper to acquire the H-60 series helicopter to replace the Sikorsky H-3F Helos. In 2000 in the Navy, U.S. Navy Pilot Lieutenant Bruce J. Donald was killed when his F/A-18C Hornet fighter crashed into the Persian Gulf. And one other footnote, there will be services held for a Lieutenant Elliot Brandon, JG, Navy, JG meaning junior grade, and he had passed on, and there'll be a memorial service in Pahrump Veteran Memorial, East Street of Pahrump, and it will be October 1st at 10 a.m. All veterans of the Pahrump community are invited and encouraged to show up. So if anybody knew this officer, Elliot Brandon, it'd be nice to attend. I'm going to try to be there myself. So without further ado, my guest was on the show before and wants to do a command appearance again. So Brian Kunzi, excuse me. Welcome back.
Well, thank you.
All right.
I'm not sure it was voluntary, though. I think I was pressed into duty here.
Oh, come on, not me. Being voluntold? Yeah. All right, so what other new things did you come up with that you wanted to... You were voluntold to be back on the show.
Oh, I just, it's one of those things I think it's important to, for people to talk about and hear, because I know we have a lot of veterans in this valley, but, more importantly, any kids who are watching, I think it's important to understand, what the military means, and I think what benefits you can get out of it. I think that's one thing that kids sometimes today don't really consider. Unfortunately, far too many don't really consider the military as a career opportunity, and I think they're missing a prime opportunity.
Talk about having your feet held to the fire in the military, because that's what they do. We were just talking about how Nye County alone has over 5,000 veterans, and it's an honor to serve the country.
Well, I just think that kids too. It's like I look at my example. And I know we talked about this a little bit, the last time, but, I come from a small town. I was raised up in Hawthorne, a few hours up the road here, small high school, but yet, I was able to, I was awarded a 4-year ROTC scholarship, which, is a pretty amazing benefit when you think about it. My tuition was paid for, my books were paid for, plus you get a monthly stipend. Yeah. So I took that opportunity to get out of Nevada and go to Indiana University.
Well,
that was, I just, one of those things that I didn't want to go to college anywhere where I could come home on the weekends. And, I certainly accomplished that. But, again, it's such a super opportunity. That it presents to you.
So when you were going to college, you were still active duty at the time?
I wasn't active duty, but like I said, we had to take classes, in college, our ROTC classes. I wasn't actually commissioned until I graduated from college. And then at that point in time, I was given an educational delay to go to law school.
So this was something you chose, or they predetermined for you?
You had to apply for it.
Okay.
So I got selected to go to law school, and then after law school, and I didn't realize it at the time, but I had to apply for a general branch assignment in the Army.
What does that mean exactly?
Well, you know, whatever different branches they have: infantry, armor, field artillery.
Okay, out of all those MOSs, how did you luck out to be a
Well, that's
attorney?
The attorneys do their own thing, but I mean, when you think about it, and I found out later that when I was selected for the JAG Corps, there were about a third of the people who had gotten educational delays were actually selected by the JAG Corps, which means 2/3 of the people that the Army let go to law school were given some other branch assignment. And we actually had two attorneys where I was stationed after I came on active duty. They were not originally selected into the JAG Corps. They were actually field artillery. And then there were several people who didn't pass the bar exams, so therefore they weren't allowed to go into the JAG Corps. So the JAG Corps went in and plucked these people out of the other branches. And these two people that were field artillery now got selected to the JAG Corps. So talk about getting taken out of purgatory, you know. They still have their hearing.
Well, I don't know about that. Mine ain't so good.
Those big guns have a tendency to do something to your hearing.
You know, just the machine gun with mine, it doesn't stop ringing.
So, but that, you know, the JAG Corps works very, very differently and independently in the Army. I'm not sure how they actually, you know, do it in the other services, but the JAG Corps itself has their own, you know, as they say, personnel office. They do their own selections. So like I said, I was very fortunate to get selected into the JAG Corps.
So even then, it was very political at that time going through.
It was very tough, and I think one of the things that I don't think people really quite understand is how close this country came, I think, to going to war during the Iran student conflict. When they had the hostage situation there in Iran. Mm-hmm. Because one of the things that happened was that was my senior year of college. And we were notified in, maybe November of that year, that if we were going to be selected for an educational delay, we had to have all of our materials in and selected by accepted by the college by the end of January. Which was very, very difficult. I mean, so they were really, you know, cutting back on the people. So there was a lot of people that were going on active duty that wouldn't normally have done that. And so, you know, I actually had to get accepted to my law school early. Really? Because they weren't even scheduled to have their boards yet. So fortunately, I was able to, you know, make contact and ask them to review my application. So I got accepted to law school really ahead of everybody else, so I can get all my paperwork together, you know, for the Army. So there was an
actual push ahead to get all this going.
Yeah. So yeah, there was, and again, you know, obviously right after that election, then, you know, when Reagan got elected, everything kind of settled down, and
when they said
you know when they released the hostages,
444 days.
Yeah. So I think that, you know, that you know, that's kind of one of those little behind the scene things that's happening that most people, you know, may not really appreciate, and you know, because obviously the military has to make plans, and they were certainly appearing to gear up.
We were on standby alert.
Yeah,
I've been on standby alert 3 separate times. All 3 times we were told to stand down at the very end. Beirut and Grenada, the hostage, and Desert Storm.
Yeah, and again, it's one of those things that you know, certainly drives home. You know what the importance, and you know, and what the military is all about, and again, I think a lot of times people don't, certainly the general public doesn't appreciate it, that truly when you're in the military, you are on a moment's notice, subject to being called anywhere in the world.
Yeah. And
you know, even like I say, even with my time in the JAG Corps, there were times where they were potentially mobilizing, and even within the JAG Corps,
Oh, yeah.
we're there because now we are literally there getting wills prepared and powers of attorneys and doing a lot of things
I can imagine.
to help the soldiers so that the families, they don't have to worry about what's happening with their family.
True, smooth transaction,
yep.
so to speak.
And so we get very, very involved in those mobilization exercises. And
talking about being, on a standby notice at any time, we got called on standby for the riots in L.A. I was sitting at home, living on base housing. Phone rings, a staff duty saying, "You watching the news?" And I said, "Yeah." He says, "Get down to the bay where all the Amtraks were." He says, "We're going in." So we got down to the Amtrak unit, and we were, at that time when I got there, everybody was loading up all the ammo and all the MREs, mounting the 50 cals on the turrets of the. And they said, "All right, Staff Sergeant, that's going to be your Amtrak." And I was like, "That's good, Yeah. I'm going to get the fire 50 cal tonight." But again, it was told, "Stand down, we're not going." They were waiting on the best way to get to L.A. by taking the freeway or going on that dirt by the San Onofre power plant. This way we don't. It's on the tracks. They have rubber pads that they bolt on. But even after so long, they finally shoot off, and then the tracks will ultimately tear up the street. So when you're talking 30 Amtraks going down the freeway, you're destroying a lot of freeway time. And then the taxes would have gone up. So
yeah,
would have been all of our fault. But that was another one, like you said, being on a moment's notice. I was just told to get the uniform on and get down there because we're going in. So it would have been all right, but never happened. So what year did you finally get commissioned as an officer?
Oh, I was commissioned in 1980. I then went on active duty in 1983. And then I stayed on active duty until the latter part of 1987. And then I was in the active reserves for a few years after that.
So being in the active reserves as a JAG officer, you still had to come in and do cases, or?
Oh, we did actually. Yeah, we what we did, it was kind of a unique situation because I was stationed at Fort Benjamin Harrison, which is in Indianapolis, just outside of Indianapolis.
All right.
It's now decommissioned, we. So when I left the military, I stayed there in Indianapolis. My wife was from Indiana. It was kind of a unique, one of those very unique Army experiences where you expect that you're joining the military to see the world, and they sent me back to Indiana. So yeah, it's like there's not much you can do about it. But as you say, it was a great assignment. I loved it. But like I said, when I came out of the Army, I joined a law firm there in Indianapolis, and quite frankly, it's really kind of where I expected to stay.
Really?
Never really expected to come back to Nevada, but circumstances happen. But like I said, it was Indianapolis. Like I said, it was a great location for me, it's I say it's just funny how things always seem to work out when the military gets involved with it.
So never went and spent any time overseas?
Yeah, unfortunately, I never got the opportunity to go overseas, and
that's too bad.
And obviously, I mean, I'm in a lot of respects, I mean, very nice from the standpoint of it. When I was on active duty was really probably one of the periods of time where we really had no major conflicts going on. Obviously, a few skirmishes here and there, but and I'd say in Fort Harrison was a training facility.
But even then, training facilities, people do get hurt too.
Oh,
you get a lot of. When we used to train in Combat Town, and the buildings were made out of cinder blocks, and they were hollowed. People jumping out of the back windows, and when they land the uneasy ground, they twist an ankle, break a leg.
Yeah.
You still got the problems. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll come right back. So get a cup of coffee and join us.
Left foot, left foot, left foot. No line, the jump. No line, the jump. I left the right, the jump. I left the right.
All right, welcome back to Semper Fi. I'm talking to my guest, Brian Kunzi. He was on the show once before, and he wanted to come back on, had some more stories to tell. And we were just talking about being a reservist, because I did 20 straight years active duty, and we're kind of talking about exactly how the reservist worked, as you do 2 weekends a month, and you were saying you did yours every Wednesday.
Yeah, we actually did ours every Wednesday. Like I say, when I left, with the military base right there, our reserve unit actually would come in, and it was a JAG detachment, and we would actually come in every Wednesday night, and we would be there for 4 hours. And if I remember right, I think we probably went from maybe, I don't remember if we started at 1,700 or 1,800 hours, and then would go for 4 hours. But it was really pretty nice, because what we would do is we would actually do legal work. We would have clients scheduled for us, and so we would meet with soldiers. One of the things that people probably don't understand about the JAG Corps is that we actually did a lot of legal work. If soldiers were having legal problems,
right?
If they were having problems with leases or even divorces, and we were able to give them free legal assistance. And we would do that. So the base would schedule soldiers to come in and meet with us. We would, like I say, we would interview them, do whatever legal work we had to do, whatever documents we could prepare for them.
So in a sense, you were kind of doing the overflow from the base?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And helping for deployments, getting the powers of attorneys ready and
yeah,
wills?
we would do all of that, wills,
Okay.
powers of attorneys, anything that really, needed to be done.
When you're getting close to the wire to being deployed, it's nice to know that on a Wednesday night I was able to go in there and get my power of attorney ready.
Yeah, and it was really nice. It was nice to be able to come in, just every Wednesday, so you didn't have the weekends that you had to do. So we just did 4 Wednesdays every month for 4 hours. Now the other thing, then you do have to do 2 weeks of annual training every year. So like one year we went out to Fort Bliss, which is in El Paso.
All right, what'd you do out there?
It's basically the same type of thing. We're just helping their attorneys do whatever work they needed done.
Did you ever go and do any field training? Do rappelling?
Not so much. Once I got on active duty, we really didn't do any of that.
Really?
Unfortunately, although rappelling is not my favorite. I've never.
I wasn't a big fan of it either.
I never. Rappelling wasn't one of my favorite things. Now, what was interesting doing ROTC in Indiana is right around Bloomington, which is where the college is down in southern Indiana, is really the headquarters of a limestone. A lot of like the Empire State Building and stuff comes from limestone that was quarried out of that area.
All right.
So there are just a lot of quarries, which is very fascinating because it has your sheer walls as they're basically cutting this. So we had unbelievably great rappelling places to do, but I just never. I parachuted, love it.
Really?
I love parachuting.
Yeah.
One of the most fun things I've ever done.
Another thing I wouldn't do.
I love parachuting, but I tell you what, that rappelling, I burn up a lot of gloves because I'm not loosening up too much.
A lot of fun, ain't it?
Of course, my favorite now. When you do ROTC between your junior and senior year, you have to go to summer camp, and that's basically the basic training for officers. And I don't even want to come close to equating it to, what regular basic training is. But there we do get the field training, and we're doing maneuvers and learning all the tactics and doing those things. But they divide the country up into regions, and so we went to Fort Riley, Kansas, and that was fascinating to be in Kansas in July. 98 degrees, 98% humidity. But there were, Kansas doesn't have a great deal of topography. So we had rappelling towers. And they basically just had these towers that were built out of telephone poles and lined with, plywood.
Yeah.
And it was always interesting because you're inside winding your way up to the top, and they would do different rappels off of the 4 different sides of it. And,
Right.
what was always funny is one of the rappels that you have to learn is called an Australian rappel, which is face first.
Right.
You literally, instead of, normally you're doing this, you've got the rope over your shoulder, and you kind of lower yourself out so you're parallel to the ground, and then you're supposed to release the rope and run down the face of the tower. And invariably, and being inside the tower, it's always funny because what happens is, and it's just sometimes just that instinct, is as soon as you start releasing and you feel that rope going, you break by forcing the rope back to your shoulder. And unfortunately, what happens with a lot of people is they start down and then they break. And the problem is when you do that, you end up face diving into
your nose is against the wall
in the tower. And so it's like I say, it's always funny when you're inside the tower because all of a sudden it's like kaboom and everything's shaking. You go, well, there's another one who just did a face dive.
I always used to get a kick out of the guys that would they'd be so into the rappel, they'd shoot off and they drop like 20 feet, then they hit it again, and they're down on the second one. Like, that's good, but you know what? I'm taking my time. I don't want to kill myself.
Yeah, I don't know. I just never enjoyed the rappelling aspect of it. But
so, how many jumps did you wind up doing? Did you get your jump wings?
No, I didn't. I didn't go to airborne school.
Okay.
But we just kind of did it in college. We would go out and do some.
Well, how many times
jumping.
Did you get to jump?
Oh man, how many times have I jumped? Wow, I don't even know.
As they say, when you go to jump school, you only need 10 jumps to get your silver wings.
Yeah. Well, they didn't make too many lawyers go to airborne school, unfortunately. In fact, they always jokingly referred to us attorneys as chairborne. So yeah, unfortunately, we couldn't get to do it, but no, we had a field. We had a field there in southern Indiana where we would go jumping. And the funny thing is, when you're doing the indoctrination of what it was, they're also teaching you if you happen to land in water. There's ways, different ways of landing in water than you would on land. And but then you always got the admonition there that if you landed in water, that was because you hit the cesspool at the end of the runway, and they said, don't bring the parachute back. So we didn't have to worry too much about the water landing.
But if you did, all right.
Yeah, you're in deep doo, as they say. If you
So you went to OCS then?
Well, it's not OCS because OCS is a little bit different. OCS is soldiers that are on active duty, and then they get selected to go to officer candidate school.
Right, but in order to do that, you have to have a degree.
Right, and so mine was a little bit different tactic because I was never on active duty, as an enlisted. So, and the ROTC program, and that's one of those things. But boy, kids have that opportunity; they need to take advantage of it. And even if you don't, even if you're not fortunate, like I said, I was lucky. I had a 4-year scholarship, so I had all 4 years of college paid for. Even if you don't get that opportunity, if you're interested, enroll in ROTC, because every ROTC program, they offer 3, 2, even 1-year scholarships.
Yeah.
So if you get in the program, at the college, it's a great opportunity to pick up, some serious scholarship money. Because like I say, they will pay, for your complete tuition.
And if you graduate and become an officer, you get saluted a lot.
Yeah.
Get a lot of salutes.
I'm not sure that's the virtue of.
No, I'll say it ain't so.
Yeah.
The colonel from the high school was on the show.
Yeah.
He was in his uniform. We talked about ROTC, and it's a great thing. When I was going through high school, we didn't have an ROTC program, but I still joined. It was something I always wanted to do. But yeah, like we said in the beginning, serving your time for this country is an honor. And I don't see why a lot of people, especially where the economy is, trying to go into the military is not a bad thing. And like you keep saying, get your education paid for. You can go far.
Well, and it was, I went through in a very interesting period of time because, I basically was in college right after post-Vietnam. And it was interesting because ROTC military was not really well received on college campuses.
Oh, yeah.
And so We did not wear uniforms on campus because there was fears that there would be retaliation, and so in some respects it was kind of it's kind of sad because it really kind of kept everything really on the down low. Most people wouldn't even have known the people that were in the ROTC program because you really didn't have that military presence, and that's unfortunate. That and I think fortunately today you don't really see that. But back in that era, post Vietnam, the military was not
liked.
Yeah, there was just a lot of, and again it's just one of those sad parts of our history. But like I said, it was very interesting to
a lot of animosity
to go through college at that time and really see that and. Live through a lot of that.
Yeah, I know the feeling. I came in '77, and right there, I came in the tail end. Saigon fell in '75, and we were kind of looked at going through the airports, going to different duty stations in the Charlies, and we were kind of always looked down at when you only had a little bit of rank, and still wondering what was going on.
Yeah, because I started college in '76, so like I said, I was literally right after the. I certainly remember the helicopter taking off from the U.S. Embassy with the last
Saigon. Yeah.
So,
my sergeant major, he was on that wall. He's on a Time magazine. Lives out here in Henderson. All right. Well, Jeff's letting me know that we're coming down to another day, another week finished. So I'd like to welcome. You already got one. I'm going to give you a second one for being on the show.
I appreciate that.
You're going to start racking them up.
Yeah.
So if you'd like to be on Semper Fi, give me a call, 513-2917. You got a story, I want to hear it. You can be on the show as many times just like Brian Kunzi is. So until next time, you got a story, I want to hear it, and I want to share it with everyone else. We'll see you then. Semper Fi.
See ya.
All right. Thank you for being on the show.
Thanks.
All right.
Left foot, left foot, left